Welcome to the I'm Book podcast. I'm April O'Leary, and this is the YouTube version of our podcast. To get the audio version, you can hop on over to Spotify or anywhere that you consume audio podcasts. We are going to jump into some really cool content, so stay tuned for our next guest. We look forward to connecting with you, and be sure to subscribe. And to start your author adventure, hop on over to o'learypublishing.com, where you can map out the entire process and see what writing a book would look like for you. Let's get started. So welcome to the I'm Book podcast. I'm April O'Leary, and we're actually recording live on Instagram as well too. So if you're on Instagram and you're watching, hello, glad to see you. Glad you're all here today. And I'm super excited. I've got Erin Wallace, who's a debut author of a brand new book, Spiritual Shortcuts, which is launching next Tuesday on September 26th. We're going to have a Zoom book launch party. We're going to hit #1 bestseller. We have so many big plans, and I'm so glad to welcome her here. So glad you're here today, Erin.
Thanks for having me here. I'm so excited. And I love that your cat's in the background too.
Oh my God.
So
he
cute.
is like my little, I don't know. I love that cat. And he's only 6 pounds. He's all fur and no body.
I love him.
So Erin and I got connected a few years back through our head editor, Heather DeRocher, who's been with me since the very beginning, since 2019. And she has edited all of our books. She's my right-hand girl. I absolutely love and adore her. And she came to me and she said, I know this amazing teacher. Her name's Erin Wallace. She has an amazing practice out in California. She has so much wisdom. She wants to write a book. Do you think I could introduce you? Would you be open to that? I was like, absolutely. So what was it like? What did Heather say to you before you connected with us here at O'Leary Publishing?
First of all, thank you for your infinite patience, because you're like, we met 2 years ago. I was supposed to get the book done in 1 year, but it's all divine timing.
It's all divine timing.
Yeah. Well, Heather, I just love Heather because she's really fiery like me. Like we're both Leo. We're like, just passion. And she had done a book with Christine Elwert about Kabbalah, and we loved it. And I was part of your guys' launch with that. And I was really impressed how you did it. And so it was just a no-brainer that I would work with Heather. And then she introduced me to you, and it's been a beautiful experience, and I'm thrilled. So we actually met on her ranch. And just, it was so exciting. Her mom's ranch in Northern California, which is near me. And it was just like fire, just excitement and joy and hope and passionate creative energy. So it's been a wonderful process from the beginning. I'm kind of going to miss it.
Well, Erin has been such a delight to work with. We love all of our authors, but Erin brought this special fire, like she said, and pizzazz to her project, and so much creativity. And she's bringing out some really amazing spiritual keys to help you gain more understanding about your life and your spiritual life and how to apply it into real life, and we took this approach based on a concept and an idea that she had from a book that she experienced when she was a kid. And I love that because books are so impactful. They can stick with us for decades. And so tell us a little bit about that book that inspired you and stuck with you for so long.
That book is magical. It's from God. It's grace, total grace for me, because I had gone through a very difficult time in college. I used to be very idealistic and had rose-colored glasses. And I think everybody needs to go through unfortunately, we go through a period where we wake up and, have something happen, but it's a gift, and it does help. It did help me with my spiritual progression, and I'm grateful. But I went to my mom's house, and she's very much into spirituality. And there was a book called, Life as a Spiritual Experience, Metaphysics Made Practical by Paul. And it's like, you can't even find it. It's out of print. It's like from 1979. But what it had is small. It had a simple illustration on the outside and lots of quotes to break up the eye. And so I was able to read it and get ways to pull myself out of depression. I had never experienced depression before, and I was not used to it. But I did know that I was creating a very negative life for myself because my thoughts were so negative that I created the whole premise of the book that I found is that our thoughts are higher vibration when they come down to the physical, and that's how we manifest. So we're at cause. Like if you're having a hard time, it's because you're responsible for that. And so I applied the tools about how to get more positive and, how to pull myself out of it. And I started manifesting very good results within about a month. And I really stuck to it because I was shocked. I had had a pretty good upbringing. I didn't know why I hadn't been depressed before. And I was able to get out, and I thought, this is exactly what I want to study. I was studying environmental studies and philosophy, and I thought on the side, I was getting into more spiritual teachings as I was in college from the results of learning about metaphysics. So that's why I always wanted to do a book. At some point when it was ready, when I had enough to share, I had to go through some trials and tribulations to get some wisdom, and so that's why my book, the book that we worked on together, is going to have a lot of pictures in it. I mean, let's face it, we want some pictures. So
Yes.
pictures, some quotes. Heather laid it out, and she's like, Erin, oh my gosh, there's only a couple pages where there's just words. Is that okay? And I'm like, it's okay. There's like a couple pages where you're just reading words, but so it's very short. I don't want to read it. I don't know. I think some of us grew up in the MTV generation.
Mm-hmm.
We're used to everything being like that. So it's going to be like that.
And, even more so today, we talk about the MTV generation and all of the stuff. And now it's like with the 15-second videos, on TikTok and all of this stuff, it's like, if I send my kids a video that's 2 minutes long, they're like, oh my God, what's it about? Do I have to actually watch that? So, I think Erin was very cognizant and very conscious about the way that this book comes across, because it's powerful principles. But just because something's powerful doesn't mean it needs to be really long and very complicated and take up a ton of time. It's like kind of like the spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down.
Yeah.
And I think that that's part of the process of growing, is realizing that it can be little doses, little keys, and have some illustrations and have some quotes and have some, like, there's some back and forth and some play in your manuscript. So you bring that experience that feels like a joyful process of transformation.
Yeah, you can make it fun. Yes, transformation and spiritual awakening and letting go of our subconscious issues can be daunting, and it can be uncomfortable, and it is. But why is that uncomfortability seen as negative? It's actually, it's a fear of the fear of the discomfort is worse than the actual discomfort, the dread of it. And so if you can start to face the challenges head on with glee, and knowing that facing them, so getting over that discomfort, or facing yourself, seeing yourself like the mirror of yourself and others, which is always hard. We see somebody like, oh, I can't stand them, they're doing this and this and this, and then realizing, oh my gosh, I'm doing that hurts. Like, it's like a punch. It doesn't feel good to like see yourself. But then once you take the punch, you can actually change it very, very quickly into the light. So anything that you've been suppressing here in the dark, you're pushing down, you can change that into gold. And so this is what I'm trying to do with this book, is like, I love challenges. I've like rewired myself. Like, this is a challenge, writing a book. Now I'm got to look for a bigger hill to climb, mountain to climb. I've got to find the next thing. I'm leading California for the mystery school. That's a challenge. I'm, helping the guides of this school. And so that's a nice challenge for me now. And I like that. But doing interviews with people who maybe don't know these concepts, not with you, I feel very comfortable. We've been talking this whole time, but like getting on a larger stage, that kind of thing. But the book is meant to help you face this growth period with a video game. Like, okay, you're getting points, you're going to fight the boss. It's fun.
I love it. So we're talking about, people who are maybe suppressing things, or maybe they're creating their own misery and they don't know that that's true, or they just want a way to get out of the chaos maybe they've been living in for a while. So when we talked about, and I know I said, I'm not going to make you quote the 7 keys, but when you first were introduced into this world of Kabbalah and of the mystery school and metaphysics and all this, what was one of the first keys that you experienced that really felt powerful for you?
Okay, well, there's a lot, but you're talking about helping people with their subconscious issues. I mean, I think one of the things I just mentioned just now, I think is up for this conversation, is the fact that the things that we in the book, you're asked to list people that irritate you in the world. And we were kind of talking about that a little bit before.
We won't
And
name any names.
no, yeah, we were talking about that, but like people that irritate you before, and like even it could be a famous figure out in public. You can't stand them. You just seem to be really fixated on this public figure. It could be that, or it could be a coworker, or like, gosh, she's this way or that way, or he's that way. That's actually a suppressed part of your shadow. Like, it wouldn't bother you about that person. Yes, we don't condone people doing anything violent to anybody. That's not what this is about. We don't like, we're supposed to help people stop anybody who's stopping somebody's progression or harming anybody, of course. But if there's an attitude or something that somebody has that really you can't go without 15, it bothers you more than 15 minutes, then that is you. And so you need to go and look at where you do that. And that's the uncomfortable part of growth. So you have to kind of breathe and calm yourself and be like, okay, when do I do that same behavior? And then start to realize if you want to continue doing that behavior, why you're doing that behavior. And then you'll integrate it because it's not hidden anymore. You're aware of it. And so once you're aware of something, it has no power over you anymore. And then you'll integrate it, and then that same person, you'll be neutral. I mean, even though there's some people that a group of people don't like, and then some people are neutral to them. That's because they don't really have that trigger about it. And so that, I think, is a very helpful clue to where what you're doing. Where are you doing that same exact thing that you don't like other people doing? So that's a really good one. I haven't talked about that one in an interview before.
Yeah. I love that. And I think that one of the keys that you just said that stuck out with me so much just now is that realizing that the response you're having isn't the only response that's possible. Like, you could be really upset that somebody cut you off in traffic, and someone else might be totally oblivious and be not in a hurry and doesn't bother them at all. And so the trigger is you, it's not the situation, it's not the person or the celebrity. Like you said, it's starting to say like, why did that bother me? Do I feel like my ego was triggered? Like that person was trying to like think they're better than me, they're going to cut in front of me in traffic? Hell no. I'm going to speed up because they don't deserve to get in front of me. They need to wait.
Exactly.
And then you're just creating your own misery. You could just as easily like relax and like let somebody in. What does it cost you? 5 seconds?
Yeah. Everybody is a mirror of our inner world. So if we get our inner world right, then everything else is going to be pretty smooth. And, another aspect in the book that I can just dive into because it'll just be natural is that the issue, like you said, okay, hey, who do they think they are? I got to get to work, that kind of thing. So anything that's more than 15 minutes, the 15-minute rule. So yes, we don't like it.
Hold on, before you go on, talk about the 15-minute rule.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that's probably in there, but like it's about, okay, so let's say something bothers you, something happens. Things happen all the time that we don't like. Maybe somebody accidentally walks by you and kind of hits you because they're in a hurry. You're kind of like, hey, back off. But then you move on with your life after that. That person has not hit one of your triggers. That's a normal response. Hey, I back off, or hey, don't do that. Normal set of boundary, but then you let it go. Now, if you're thinking about it 15 minutes after, more than 15 minutes after, or if you're processing something more than 15 minutes, it means it's from your past. It's not actually a current thing that happened. It's something that happened a long time ago. And so that's your responsibility. That's on you. So then you go back in meditation and go, when was the first time this happened? Okay. When I was like, okay, I'm in 3rd grade and Billy hit me, whatever it is. And then you go back and you take care of little, in my case, it's Erin. So little Erin, I talk to her and I say, you know what, that happened. And I'm sorry that happened. I love you. I'm going to be there for you. Because usually our inner child hasn't been listened to. Like we haven't really taken care of being the parent of our inner child. And so that's also in the book, how to care for your inner child. So all of this is in there. And then so you can now sort of comfort them or listen to them. And then that way you're not arrested development at whatever age you are now. A lot of us are arrested development. Okay, at 14, this happened. and it could even be 18. But you want to go back. Usually it's the first thing, like 3, 4, 5. And then the other wounds are just mirrors of the same wound. So something happened to you, you're total innocent, but how you respond to it is how is your responsibility. But then if you might have a belief that let's say somebody does something specific, I don't know, somebody does something and it keeps on happening to you, well, you're the common denominator. You're the one who keeps on attracting that one exact problem. And so no one else seems to be having the same problem. That's your responsibility. So this is how we're getting free, is taking responsibility for these things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I love that because it's the biggest shift to go from, it's not my responsibility, they did it. It's because of that situation, that person's to blame. And you're saying, no, it's not. It's you.
It's you.
It's
yeah,
you.
But then you can
And
change
then
it.
you get the power back to be able to deal with little Erin or little April or little Ben or little Jeffrey, and then we get to change how we interact with the world. And that to me is so beautiful. And you wrote about it and packaged that so beautifully, talking about the inner child, because we all have it. I think we all have those times in our life when we were young, when we weren't listened to, or we were abused in some way, or we were hurt, or we were sad and we weren't comforted the way we needed to be comforted, or we were ignored or abandoned or whatever. And then we're dragging that stuff along. And so Erin's giving us these simple keys, these spiritual shortcuts to be able to say, oh, wait a second, that's what that is. Now I'm aware. And something you just said earlier too is once you're aware of it, then you can start dealing with it.
Yeah, if it's hidden in the dark and you think it's just the world and that, gosh, I've had a really hard lot in life. People keep on doing this to me. I keep on doing this, keeps on having. Well, I wanted to bring light to that because we are all good people. Humans are good. But do we have the grace? Did we get the grace to find out these keys? I had the grace. I found out about my thoughts creating my world. I wanted to share this. It took me a long time to figure this stuff out, actually, of trial and error. And, I think there's beauty in the challenge of finding this stuff out. But if you've prayed or asked for help, then you're probably going to find the book, because then that's the answer to one of your prayers. And so I only want it if you're earning it. Like I think we need to kind of figure out our own riddle, the riddle. And that's part of the joy of being human. But it can be easier if you're smart enough to ask for help.
I love that. It can be easier if you're smart enough to ask for help.
Yeah.
And how much courage it takes to ask for help. I think that's one of those things that pride is that, I've got it. I don't need help. I don't even have a problem. You think I have a problem? I don't have a problem. But the courage to say, maybe I do have a problem and maybe I don't have the answer to it, but maybe someone else does. It takes a lot of courage. It takes
and humility.
and humility. Yes.
Empty your
But
cup.
that's one of the keys, is that being able to learn from someone else's wisdom. So, Erin has been through a lot of these trials and tribulations and has formulated a lot of these keys to success and spiritual shortcuts. And so that's why she was like, you know what? That book by Paul impacted me so much. And I need the modern day Paul experience, but for other people, because books have that power in them. Because I believe that the energy that we put into books, the intentions that are put into books, the wisdom that's put into a book because of the life you've lived, now you're opening the door for people to be able to learn, who are praying for something to show up. I mean, we've all maybe had that experience where someone gave you the right book at the right time. Or I was recently in Gainesville, Florida for my anniversary a few months ago. And we ended up in this kind of like an antique mall, but it was like individual proprietors had like different corners of the mall. So it was like a bunch of individual stores, but in this one mall. And there was one that was used books. And of course, it's the only one I wanted. I didn't want to look at like old farming equipment or like, Beanie Babies or something. And I pulled off this book, and I should probably show it to you. It's called The Lazy Guide to Enlightenment.
Yeah.
And it was a thin book, and it was published in the 70s, and it opened the door and it connected the dots for me in so many other ways. And I don't know if this guy's is even alive now. I bought it for $1 off of this person's shelf in Gainesville, which I've never even been to Gainesville, but it showed up at the right time. And so if you're listening to this podcast right now and you're like, oh my gosh, this sounds really interesting. I feel like I've been triggered for more than 15 minutes. Like I noticed that about myself. Then Erin's showing up for you at the right time. And we're telling you that this book it can change your life. I really, truly believe that. Let's talk a little bit about some of the tools you included in the back of the book and some of the illustrations, because I think both were really important pieces of the book that really brought it together. So let's talk a little bit about the illustrations first and your process for that, because they came out so, so beautifully.
Oh my God.
Tell me,
Yeah.
tell me about your experience with that and your ideas and how they came about creatively.
Oh, I loved, yeah, the illustrations were key. That was I just knew right away because a picture's worth 1,000 words. I mean, we love memes. All of us love memes. We get so much information and joy from memes on like social media. And, I just don't think that words can describe some of the things like the shortcut, the fact that there aren't shortcuts. I mean, that's one of the things you find out right away. There's no shortcut. It's actually a more difficult path up the mountain instead of switchback. So we did our best to do that, make an illustration of that. Some of these are hard. And then the Buddha at the Tree of Enlightenment, I love that goal. He's got this force field where he's worked on his triggers, so nothing triggers him. He's a master. We all know him. It's universal. And he doesn't have any little button that anybody can get in. So we did a force field around him and then had people, negative forces trying to get in, but they couldn't. So we had the arrows going over him. We have a picture of the inner child, of how we treat our inner child. A lot of times we're very mean to our inner child. So you are like, you might say like, when in that example earlier where I'm like, sometimes you're going to find somebody you don't like and they do terrible things. The example of the mirror. And a lot of times people are like, well, I'm not a child abuser. Like they chose a child abuser as the person that triggers them, of course. But I'm like, well, are you beating up your inner child? So there's a picture of a woman like kind of reprimanding her inner child. So that's how that shows up. That still works. Yeah, I think those are the ones I can really remember right now off the top of my head, but there's way more where that came from.
There's a lot. I think there's like maybe 10 or 13. There's a lot of really beautiful illustrations that, like you said, the picture is worth 1,000 words. Yes. And the pictures go right with the words, and they're very meaningful and very impactful as part of the experience of the book. Yeah.
Talk about the inner child. The inner child is still there. So all of us, when you're kids, you're like, I'm not going to read a book unless there's pictures. Like, I mean, that was my number one rule as a kid.
And what people could do, they could get the book and they can color it.
That's a good idea.
Right?
Yeah.
You could do a course where people come and use the book and color the images in each chapter.
That's a good idea. I never even thought about that. That's cool. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the appendix in the back and what you did to help people kind of with some of the new concepts and things.
Yeah. And I loved I think it was your idea. I don't know, somebody's idea, it wasn't mine, to not put it at the end of each chapter. Mm-hmm. Because then you feel, because I personally will skip those. Right. And I'll feel like kind of guilty, like, oh, I didn't do the exercise.
Am I allowed your inner child?
Am I allowed to change the page? Because I'm totally not doing the homework. That's how I feel. But so we put it at the back, so you don't have to feel anything about that. So you just decide when you want to do it. But yeah, we did an exercise on how to contact your inner child, which is number one. Really, I mean, I went around the actual point for so many years, not realizing that it's all about the inner child. Most of the triggers you have are because your inner child doesn't feel safe. And you're not parenting them and you're ignoring them. That's pretty much most of your problems with your subconscious mind are from that. So that's the shortcut. Boom. Figure that out. Will of God, how to align with the spirit of all. So God, in this book is, I am God, April's God, you are God listening. But then there's a bigger God that's all of us. So God's a trigger word for a lot of people. And that's why we warn people at the beginning that's going to be triggering, because you've been told that it's outside you, that you've got to go to somebody to get to God. but you are God, and that's going to help you out a lot, because then you can realize I'm responsible. So there's an exercise where you can connect to shapes, sacred geometry shapes, to actually connect to the higher realms, which are aligned with the good of all. And when you align with the good of all, you're aligning with a way to have a win-win situation. So there's a meditation on that. There's a meditation on listing your triggers. So, I mean, usually that's better a surprise attack where you don't know why we're asking you. But it was important in this interview for our listeners today to hear about that mirroring process. And so it's a little bit of a reveal. So try to forget it and try not to edit yourself when you do that exercise, because it's best if you really are honest. Like, yeah, I can't stand so-and-so because they seem to have no filter. They're too free. And sometimes it's like, well, I'm jealous. I wish I was free. I used to have that. And now I'm free, now I don't, but I was like, God, somebody's so free. They can do whatever they want. And I thought I was jealous. And then I thought, well, I can do what I want. What do they have that I want? Oh, they're free, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So powerful. So powerful. It's like once you start to realize how much power you really have and how much all around you, it's like life is conspiring on your behalf. It's not against you, it's for you. And then how can you, even the things that seemingly are triggering you are calling you to awaken. And, Erin's giving you these little challenges that aren't so easy, but they will help tremendously on the shortcutting, like straight up the mountain. So what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Okay. We changed everything to I am Erin Wallace. I don't know. I think it should be, maybe we could put a link or something, because we're changing everything from.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the show notes, but her Instagram is I am Erin Wallace, ErinWallace.
Yeah. And then I have
Your website is Erin Wallace Author.
Yes. See, I'm being transparent. I'm rebranding because I'm also a teacher with a mystery school. And a lot of the things I got are from this mystery school. But I also want to honor and not make it all about me. I'm representing a bigger entity. And so I wanted to kind of create something separate so that I can do this in more like in integrity and alignment and everything. So yes, I do have it's all new though. It was all for
Everything
this.
Is
I am
new.
Erin
All
Wallace
things
author.
Are new. I love it.
Yeah. So it's
Erin
been really
Wallace
cool.
Author, and her book launches on Tuesday, September 26th. If you're listening to this before that date, you can get on our Facebook group, which is Spiritual Shortcuts. You can find that on the O'Leary Publishing Facebook page. You can also join the book launch party, which is on Zoom. It's going to be on that Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time, and on o'learypublishing.com/Zoom. You can get in that private Zoom room and you can meet Erin in person and hear all about her process to becoming an author and celebrate her with us. And I'm sure we'll be celebrating a #1 new release. The book will be out in paperback and ebook format. You can actually pre-order it now. It is available on Amazon, Kindle, and anywhere books are sold. And I just want to thank you so much, Erin, for trusting us to be part of your process to bring this book into the world. I don't take it lightly when someone is willing to take all of the things that they've learned and put it in our hands to help them deliver it into the world as best we all can together as a team. And it's been super fun and exciting to work with you. And I do believe it's all in divine timing. Like, we can't always know why the timing is what it is. And why it wasn't supposed to be released when we initially had planned for it to be released. But energetically, there was something that was saying it's not the time yet. And now it is the time.
Yeah. And I had a really good experience. Thank you too. I had a really good experience with your company. And I love the cover. It's exactly everything I've ever dreamed of. And the layout is super magical. It feels very magical and exactly what I wanted. So I definitely recommend O'Leary Publishing. I want to make sure I get the name right.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. I didn't solicit that, I promise.
And the 26th is a good day to buy it. I hired a Vedic astrologer to make sure it's the right time. So
I love it.
Yeah, I recommend the physical will be really cool because you can look at the pictures and
Yes. And you would color the pictures.
yeah, that's such a cool idea. They're so
Right?
pretty.
Like
You're
that someone could
illustrating.
color the pictures and take a picture and send it to you on Instagram DM, and you could post it on your page. And
That's such a
wouldn't
good
that be
idea.
cool?
I loved the illustrator is really good too.
Yeah, Jonathan's amazing. We've used him for a number of books. He's so talented and really is able to deliver really custom, beautiful images. So we're grateful for his work. But thank you again. Is there any last piece of wisdom or call to action that you would have for someone right now who might be feeling like they're stuck, or maybe they're stuck in some negative patterns that they haven't quite been able to break through? Maybe they've been in therapy, or maybe they've gone to church, or maybe they've tried other things and they just don't feel like their gears are getting, they're not getting into the right gears. Do you have anything to say to that person?
Yes. Yeah. First of all, pray, like ask for help, because that's one of the chapters. Angels cannot help you unless you ask. Okay.
Mm.
So because we have free will, we're supposed to be figuring this out. It's sort of your journey, it's your adventure, and you need to climb yourself out so that you earn the right, you earn the lesson, right? But you can have help along the way. Just think of it as a quest, and you should ask for help. And then angels or help comes through stuff like this. Like if you're seeing this, it's a sign. Or if somebody gave you a referral to somebody new, and maybe that person doesn't work out, but they give you to somebody else, that's God. Or if you want to use the word God, working through people, because we're all God. So people could be your angel, but just use your discernment and trust yourself. Like, okay, yeah, I got asked to go to the specialist, but that specialist didn't work and they're going here. Realize that that's how the physical world sometimes works. It's not always so instant, but you keep going and pray. I mean, not in a religious sense, just like there's angels that are here to help you, but they can't help you unless you ask. So I would do that. That's the easiest, quickest thing. Like, get humble. I get on my knees. Like when I've had struggles, I put my face down to the earth. I'm on my face, prostrate. And that humility brings in so much grace. And that's been helpful for me when I had some tough times.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Such wise, and also not easy advice. But, to be able to stop, especially for people, I'll say, like, I'll speak for myself, is like, I'm a doer, I'm an action taker, I got this, and so to get into that state of like, maybe I don't got this, and maybe I could circumvent some trials and tribulations if I just slowed down a little and got in touch and asked for help and allowed the help to appear, rather than trying to force my way down, the hallway sooner than I'm supposed to. So yeah, it's like taking that breath and asking. So thank you for that. That was a good word for me. See, I was supposed to be here today.
Yeah, this has been lovely. I love this interview. And
that was great. Yes. So make sure that you ask for help. If you're listening to this podcast right now, know that it's not an accident, that you're supposed to buy spiritual shortcuts. I'll just be that blunt about it.
Yeah.
And also, I encourage you to go to Erin's Instagram at I am Erin Wallace, and go to her website at erinwallaceauthor.com. All of that's going to be in the show notes. And thank you for your time today, Erin. I really appreciate you. Can't wait for your book launch on Tuesday.
I'm so excited.
I can't wait to watch this book just soar into the world and change so many lives. It's been really
it's
such a
seriously
blessing.
Trying to help. I really care about us humans, and animals too, everybody. It's really, I'm trying to help. It's good. It's a good book.
Well, thank you all. And thank you for joining us on another episode of the iBook podcast, and stay tuned for one last message. So this has been another episode of the iBook podcast. I'm April O'Leary signing off. Be sure to hop on over to o'learypublishing.com to start your author adventure and see what writing a book could do for you in your profession, in your career, and what doors it might open. We thank our guests for being a part of the show today, and be sure to subscribe to podcasts here on YouTube. We look forward to serving you and helping you get your book out into the world.